Our research covers international borders, human trafficking, and human rights, and aims to explore if hardening borders affect international human rights of persons in, near, and transiting border zones, and the ways in which it does so. By focusing on two areas, borders and human trafficking, and dividing these areas into subgroups, torture and complaints, and corridors and trafficking aid, our research looked at international databases to determine if hardening borders do, in fact, affect both levels of torture in border zones as well as the incidence of human trafficking in countries globally. Our methodology is as follows. For borders and human rights, we gathered data from Amnesty International on torture and ill treatment allegations from border security agents and looked at documented complaints regarding border walls from newspapers in relevant countries. For human trafficking, we looked at the United States State Department's annual reports of trafficking in persons, TIP, and documented trafficking ties between countries, and looked at OECD Development Assistance Committee Forum to code the types of aid directed towards human trafficking.
Moving on to our visuals and findings, we first have Figure 2, which is a visual map of national torture averages. Moving on to Figure 3, we have a visual map of source country averages from 2001 to 2007. Source country averages refers to the number of human trafficking victims sourced from various countries. Figure 4 is a representation of border complaints, the source of these complaints, and then the levels of government at which they are made. Moving on to our findings, first within border torture, we found that Turkmenistan and Libya had the highest averages of torture, being at level 4 and level 3.5. Moving on to complaints, we discovered that wall-building countries are disproportionately private in their reactions in comparison to the complaints of neighboring countries, which are mainly made at the national level of government. Human trafficking countries with the highest incidence of source country mentions are Ukraine, among Russia, and multiple other former Soviet Union states. There is a wide plethora of countries that have a very low incidence of source country mentions. This will be elaborated on later on in our full presentation. As far as human rights and borders go, in the combination of the two to present our early analysis, we have discovered that border torture and human trafficking have a higher occurrence rate near zones with strict border boundaries, more specifically, border walls. For example, the highest average incidence of source country mentions from 2001 to 2007 occurred in Ukraine, which has 2 border walls. Along this same route, average torture allegations are found near South Ossetia on the border of Russia and Georgia. Additionally, they can be found between Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan, again, another country with a border wall. In this case, we have discovered that efforts to increase border security, such as increased border guards or the construction of physical border walls, do not seem to result in human rights respecting borders. In other words, our early analysis is that hardened borders are not synonymous with the protection of human rights. Thank you.